over the last year or two, I've been doing a really good job of getting rid of excess stuff, whatever that stuff is, whether it's on my personal life. I've been donating a lot of things, recycling a lot of things. Um, and on the professional side, I grew up at a time when everybody kept their print samples forever. And about a year or two ago, I did a really good purge of the things that I had. I scanned a lot of stuff. This is a lot of the stuff was pre-digital, so I always felt guilty getting rid of it. And I'm going through another round of purging things, and I came across one more Rubbermaid container full of print pieces that look a little bit more recent. I haven't gone through it yet, and had a couple FedExes that I threw in this one box. And instead of just recycling them, I thought I'd do a quick a video showcase, for lack of a better term, on some of these pieces, and maybe go back down memory lane. I haven't gone through these in a while, but probably in a couple of years, but it'll be interesting. So I'm going to stop this video here. I'm going to try to do 1 or 2 minute clips, and then stitch them together later. So apologies in advance for some bad editing coming your way. So we'll start with the FedEx, and I can tell what's in here, I think. And man, this is sent from 2013, and to our old Michigan Avenue office. Don't send anything here, we're not there anymore. But and it was sent to us by Shapco, which did all of our DaVita printing. They're up in Minneapolis. They might even still be a great printer. I haven't worked with them probably since around this time, maybe like 2014 or something like that. But shout out to Shapco. And yeah, this is some DaVita stuff, as long as some other goodies, and we'll get to those in a second. But good old DaVita. So what did we do with them? So we actually started working with another group within DaVita to help them commercialize one of their capabilities. Basically, they wanted to open up their lab to other clinics and basically have them, DaVita Labs, do the lab work. And then there was this other group within DaVita called DCR, DaVita Clinical Research, and we started working with them. And DCR was basically kind of a 5 or 6, I lost track, but 5 or 6 different capabilities they bundled under one umbrella. So we helped them with their positioning, their core concept, and all the sales materials and digital work. And this was a lot of fun for me because we got to touch all of this, and then on top of it, I got to pull in our strategic partner, Coactive, to help with all the digital work. So it was a lot of fun. We got to work with a big group, and it was a good time was had by all, I think. I only remember the good stuff, but this was a core sales piece, and talked about all the things that they did. Obviously, highlights of the different capabilities. Yeah, there were 5. I think there were 6 groups in the beginning. They boiled it down to 5. And then there was a pocket right here with sales materials that would get put in there along with some of these business cards. So this was a fun run with DaVita. I think that the lesson learned working with these guys, or anybody for that matter, was we were working through consultants. And when that was happening, it's not always bad, but we don't have control over their relationship in the same way we would if we're working directly with somebody. So I think after this run here, we may have started to pivot and move away from working with consultants. So we still do a little bit. It's here and there for the right reasons, but not like we used to. So that was fun. Those were good times back in DaVita. And we just have other copies. I hate that these print samples are actually pretty nice. But I'll pause it here and I'll pick it back up with Aurelia. Good old Aurelia. So, this will be fun. Aurelia. We worked with Aurelia for about 9 years or so. They're definitely our longest running client. And this piece it's 2015. So we probably started this maybe in 2014. I can't remember. But so it's been in that box for a while. But let's see, 2015 Aurelia catalog. It's a pretty standard product catalog, but I think on the cover I remember their old website. We did their new website, but their old website had these design elements. So we're trying to connect in a very gentle way some of their current existing branding to potentially their old website without being too heavy-handed about it. And nitrile gloves and latex gloves aren't something you would think about too often pre-COVID, but today they're top of mind, I think, for everyone. So anyway, so it's a pretty straightforward catalog. They were celebrating their 15 years in business, or at least 15 years in the U.S., I should say. And we built a campaign around that, and we also dedicated this page to it. But the rest of it is a pretty straightforward, catalog. Your item numbers and all those kinds of things. But it was a nice piece for what it was, or for what it is. And on the back, what was fun about working with Aurinia was that they kind of evolved from, at least from their facility, their office they were working out of a distribution center. They were renting something when we first started working with them, and then they built out this headquarters, and it was a green building. Let's see, what was it? U.S. Green Building Council LEED certified. I can't remember if they were gold or whatever the status was, but we built that into part of their corporate story, along with they had like solar panels on the roof and all those kinds of things. We helped them launch a program called Aurinia Cares, and their supply chain was a big deal, about part of their corporate story. And I think, if I remember correctly, they control something like 65 or 70% of the nitrile gloves used around the world, which is just a mind-boggling number. But they do a lot of white labeling manufacturing for other brands. So in any event, that's the Aurinia story, at least for this piece. There's a lot more to that story. We did everything for them, from print to social media content to ads to trade show stuff to videos to help them launch another division of their business. So anyway, that's this Aurinia piece in a nutshell. All right, next up, I think this is Premier Relocation, if memory serves. So relocation reimagining. Yeah, that was a line, but yeah, Premier Relocation. So this was a kind of a one-off kind of a client of ours. I knew I had worked with somebody else that was a part of their organization at this time, and they needed some help with an event, and we started to put together I think this was part of a mailing, and it might have been part of something else. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. This was 2016, so it hasn't been that long. But in any event, just a really simple brochure, just kind of outlining what it is they do. Really simple. This is again one of those things that had to be created yesterday, if I remember correctly, because they were trying to get this event organized. But I always kind of chuckle when I see the healthcare stuff, and then the real estate or other consulting kind of stuff. Just makes me chuckle a little bit. Kind of the different ways we have to kind of different styles we need to incorporate to make a piece what it is. But in any event, that's Premier Relocation, and I'm going to move on to, I think there's one more piece here. Oops, I almost forgot. Hold on. Next up, I saw just a little corner of this peeking out. One more piece from the FedEx box, right? Yeah. And then so Aurinia, we worked with them a couple years ago, and Eileen and I worked on this together. We came up with a core concept, and then there were a bunch of tactical pieces like this brochure, or website. We partnered with an agency, their digital agency, to build out the website, but there were some event materials. I'm trying to remember what else we did for them, but there was a series of work. But we were really trying to create something more really modern and contemporary for them, and the program is called All In, and the L and the N in the All In logo was echoing the lupus nephritis disease. So anyway, that was the part of the creative concept that we put together for them, and then it evolved into this piece. And this piece has been sitting in a box for a very long time. It's hard to get it to lay down flat, but you get the idea. So again, the colors were really nice. I really liked working on this program for them, and we had some nice little infographic kind of design elements in here. Nothing too complicated. But from what I heard, I got an email maybe like a year ago that this campaign won a bunch of awards. So I guess it probably did pretty well in terms of recruiting people. So a client that I need to, I don't know, there's a little thing on there. Well, you're going in the recycling bin anyway. But a client I need to reach back out to. But was fun to work on this program. All right, up next, the Tupperware container. But before I jump into that, I just remembered I didn't do like a takeaway or a lesson learned from each one of these, but I'll try to do it in here moving forward. So let's see what's on top. Let's see. Wow. So probably pre-2005-ish. I don't know, maybe 2006-ish, somewhere in there. We used to actually make portfolios with work samples and put them in the mail or drop them off at an agency, but we really don't do that anymore. And this is probably this is probably a 2006 or 7 piece, and this was maybe 2008. This was what you're looking at right now were some poster design samples for a contest we put together as an agency or as a bunch of designers. I'm not saying that right. A bunch of designers at GSW entered this poster contest for, I think it was CD 101, and these were a few of my submissions or designs. But in any event, the lesson learned on here is, wow, we wasted a lot of money putting together these kind of portfolios and having them printed out, but everything just seems to be email right now. But this is definitely going in the recycling bin. All right, next up. This was, I don't know if this was the first piece I worked on at GSW, but it was definitely one of the first. And it was a drug, for a drug called Raptiva. And if I remember correctly, this was for a welcome kit. Oh, yep, and the campaign was called Clearly You. And this would go to patients once they got the prescription. And because of the Clearly You name, we had a clear envelope case, if you will. And let me just, sorry, I'm doing this with one hand, so a little sloppy here. And so this would be the mailing label. And then we had the word welcome, tinted in the back. And this is from, wow, 2004. I'm going back a ways. And anyway, Velcro tab, and there you go. You don't see that too often anymore. But I don't know if I have a takeaway from this, but what I do remember, or lesson learned, I should say, but the takeaway would be the production people at GSW were so freaking good. This was a really complicated piece, just with all the folds, and then we had all kinds of things like stickers in here that people could use, and we had a little pocket for that. And this card, this membership card, I don't know if that ultimately went over there. I don't remember, but the welcome letter and a nice brochure explained to them all about the benefits of the Clearly You program, and what else is in here? And then that's the standard, like the BRC and some other stuff. But yeah, this is a complicated piece, and the people at GSW were so good. I think I worked with Laird Shadle, if I'm correct about that name. I remember just him freaking out on me one day because I didn't color balance the shadows in one of the stock photos or something like that, and he read me the riot act. So I knew right then that I had to elevate my game in terms of my production details. So anyway, that's the Clearly You piece. Okay, next up, this isn't as much of a individual project as it is just a collection of pencils. And I'll try to take this out. Sorry for the camera work here, doing stuff with one hand, but I'll flip through and maybe just find some random stuff. I guess the front cover, this is probably 2004 or 5. The Aurinia Gel PDF brand book. Some pencils for that. Just the pencil idea. So, oh, please. Yeah, this is pretty good. This is old. There was a marketing studio called 6 Marketing Studio, so I did a couple logo concepts. Or 6 Marketing Studio, excuse me. That's another one. Kind of a colorblind test kind of thing. It was so clever. Let's see what else. Some other ones here that we won't bother with. Not much of a takeaway on this, but I probably need to just scan stuff. This is probably the worst one here because there's no. This is just a pile of stuff, so I apologize on this clip. Yeah, Okay, next up, if I remember correctly, the Walk Tall for Life brochure. And this was a kind of an awareness piece, and there was some sign-up materials inside of it. But the cover concept was this spine with a string tied around it, much like the old, idea, tie a string around your finger to remember something. That's what this is all about, something to remember. Back pain should not be ignored. 3.3 walk in San Francisco. Let's see. And I think I shot that with Don Levy. I wonder how old this piece is. This has got to be 2010. Probably one of the first things we did at C2, or at least not the first thing, but that first year. But I like that idea on the cover a lot. I thought it was a strong visual for what it was. I probably could have executed it better looking back on it, but we were kind of like living with their branding in terms of their purples and whatnot. But I have no idea what this photo's about, but must be part of the entertainment for the walk. But yeah, stilt walkers. Share the route with stilt walkers. And there you go, get the rest of the brochure there. I remember building this map. That was so much fun. It was a good time. But anyway, that's the Walk Tall for Life. I don't really have a takeaway from this. I don't know. Make the photo bigger, maybe? I don't know. If I could do this again, this is from a design perspective and less from a creative or relationship perspective, but I would have made this background a lot darker. I think I don't know what I was thinking. It should have been darker. I want that spine to pop more. But anyway, that's that. Could have been more dramatic. Lesson learned. That's it for the Walk Tall for Life piece. Okay, next up, the National Hellenic Museum. This is one of our clients from a few years ago, and we helped them with the launch of their new building. They were a functioning institution, but they built a new museum on Halsted and Van Buren in Greektown. And so this was kind of a relaunch. So there was this piece that we helped develop with them. Got a lot of great old photography that we tried to leverage. And they had some really nice architectural shots, which we tried to leverage as well. We really wanted to showcase the building because it was more than just a building with, artifacts in it. It was more of a community space, if you will. And I like a lot of the colors that we used in this. The back I wasn't thrilled with. We ended up making it a letter, which I think a letter could have always accompanied this piece. But hey, I guess the lesson learned here is this was a client that was just, I always felt like every time we talked to them, they were in a state of panic. And because of this launch. And so sometimes as a designer, as a creative, you need to be okay being more of a counselor and stepping outside the normal boundaries of your job and letting everybody know it's going to be okay. And here's a couple more, I'll just put these on top. A couple brochures that we ended up working on with them, membership brochures, again using color as a device to separate things at a glance, like when it's in the building. And then the newsletter, I remember Rebecca drove this. Shout out to Rebecca, she did a really nice job of putting this together. She took the look and feel that we'd started and kind of ran with it. So, and I haven't, I'm not on their list anymore, so I don't know if this template is still being used, but I'll have to sign up for something for one of theirs. So really nice job on this. Hey, look at that, a letter from the president. So I think that's it for the National Hellenic Museum, the National Greek Museum. And we'll see what's next. All right, next up, a DaVita Labs piece. And wow, so this was even before DaVita Clinical Research. And what we were helping them put together all kinds of launch materials as they were commercializing the lab's capability in their business. And some of the stuff is original photography. I know this one's stock, but the rest of the stuff is original because I shot it down there in one of their labs, but I haven't looked at this piece in so long. Oh my goodness. This was actually a pretty nice little piece that we put together for them, and all that photography is original, and these were their lab techs. And what's on the back? All kind of the pillars of their brand. But remember QR codes, man? There you go. We were on the cutting edge there with the QR codes. I think if there's a takeaway from this one, I would say go go without the QR code next time. All right, next up, UCP. Let's see if we got, there's a couple things in here. So I'm gonna spread these out. Apologize again for the bad camera work, but these are a couple brochures that we did, some sales brochures and kind of a larger catalog. And the challenge with these, just in general, I don't know if it's a takeaway, is just when you're dealing with client photography, sometimes the photography they provide isn't that great quality-wise or just aesthetically pleasing. So, and sometimes the imagery really drives the cover design. So we wanted a really consistent look, but we weren't able to make it like as much of a family as I think we would have liked, but such is life. But I remember, I think it was this one, where we just had tons of images to retouch, which was totally fine. And we were running so fast as a company, and so much was happening behind the scenes that I probably wasn't being as on top of it as I should have been in terms of scoping these things and communicating with the client why things were the way they were. But in any event, I remember talking to our team internally when this project was all said and done, and I think we ended up, whatever we scoped, whatever amount of hours, we tripled it just in retouching alone on this, because there was just so much stuff we didn't see it all coming. So the takeaway was really, you almost need on a project like this, and there was a folder pocket in the back for other materials, you almost really need a strategy session for some of these, even though you think this would be a really straightforward piece. The devil's in the details, and I think the same thing happened with this. I remember just retouching we thought we were going to have an hour or so in each image, but each image ended up being like 3 or 4 hours when it was all said and done. There was just so much work that needed to happen. And then once you got it in the layout, there was a whole other level of production that needed to happen. So in any event, but the retouching, although the imagery of the subject matter might not be that exciting to some people, some of the retouching this was pretty amazing. So in any event, I'm kind of flipping through this. It's still our sales piece, and then this bigger catalog. This is actually a pretty big piece. So I won't flip through every page, but there was just, lots of mechanical drawings that we had to get production ready. So not super exciting, but a nice piece. This ended up being pretty nice when it was all done. I'm trying to find a spread here that we would have. We try to bring some kind of design element that they could use across all these pieces, and that was kind of this grid element we started to play around with. So, and it worked nicely with their product. Let me find one more. This is probably a better shot. So a lot of what their materials end up in places like airports and big municipal projects. So in any event, that is UCP. And when do we do this? This is we might not have a date on this, but I always like the back of this cover for what it is. Very simple, a nice little catalog over here, a little index, and that's UCP. All right, up next, this is a concept from, this probably goes back to 97 or 98, something like that, maybe 99. But the reason you're seeing the light reflecting so intensely on this is back in the day, we used to laminate our creative samples, and then on the back, there was like this felt backing on them so that when you put them in your portfolio and they stacked on top of each other, they wouldn't, it wouldn't scratch the fronts. So I remember this being very expensive and spent a lot of time and money getting these mounted and ready to go. But in any event, I don't know if there's a lesson learned on here, but it just reminds me of all the time, money, and energy we put together. And now, these things, nobody uses physical portfolios anymore. But I remember there was a guy that did this. And that was the coolest thing about it. It was like you took your portfolio down to the guy, and he put everything together for you, and you come back like a week later, and you're like all set to go. So anyway, but this concept was for an ophthalmic drop or a glaucoma drop made by Alcon. So this concept, as you're seeing it right here, didn't get executed as is, but it did evolve into a concept or a campaign that did get launched, so that was cool. So that's this Alcon piece. All right, another Alcon piece, and this isn't a final piece, this is actually a proof, and a proof produced by Seven, if anybody remembers them. I don't know if they ever went out of business or just, who knows, but anyway. So we actually, for this concept, we had this concept of a sumo wrestler basically breaking the pommel horse here, and he's contrasted by this Olympic gymnast basically, using his precision and strength to, perform his routine. And so the whole idea for the concept was, yes, there are other drugs out there that are really strong and powerful, but they might not get, even though they might get the job done, they also might do some damage. Or you could choose us, the lean, mean precision machine, and we can do the same job much better without the damage. So that was that idea. But I remember I think this photo shoot had to happen on like a Memorial Day or one of those kind of gray agency holidays where some people work and some don't. But the creative director came into my office and said, "Smith, this is the time I get to pull senior on your ass, and you're doing this shoot, not me." So anyway, I thought this was fun. The shot ended up turning out really nice. I can't remember for the life of me who the photographer was, but so I won't say who I think it was, but turned out really well. I had a lot of fun putting this image together. I see another Alcon direct mail piece in here, and so I'll go through this. This is going to be a challenge, so I might edit this little clip here because this direct mail piece leverages a pull-out tab to drive home the point. I remember this being the most ridiculous idea I think I came up with, or at least one of them while I was at Corbett. And I always loved this thing. This was a for training purposes only piece, not to be left with physician. So this was a piece that was designed all about kind of blunting the competitor's preservative, right? And the preservatives in their eye drops, and the implied message here is preservatives are bad. The more preservatives stay around in the droplet, the more damage they could do to somebody's eye or make them uncomfortable, kind of thing. So that's what we're trying to get across. And so this whole idea was kind of a lab test in a direct mail box. So this was kind of setting up the test that they had run, and then there's this little tab here that pulls out the results. And so I apologize, but you're going to see here. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. So it pulls out immediately. Does the preservative run out immediately? Nope. What about after 30 minutes? Nope, still there. What about after an hour? Nope, still there. What about after 2 hours? Nope, still there. I think I can do this one a little bit easier. So there we go. Conclusion, Purite doesn't disappear, but it was this really ridiculous pull-out system that we had come up with to drive home the point. So a doctor literally would have to like stretch their arms all the way across to open the piece up, but I thought it delivered the message with a smile, if you will, a little bit of sense of humor, and the conclusion, the payoff would be that our preservative is safe and gentle. So anyway, that was a fun piece. I don't know if there's a takeaway, but it was a fun piece to work on and actually sell it to the client. And you know what? There is a takeaway. Good clients will run with some crazy ideas sometimes. This was one of those times. It made them laugh. It drove home the point, and I think it was a successful piece. While we're on Alcon, I see another direct mail piece that we had done for them. I think this was a series, probably the one that I have left. But I remember working on these. I think it's a roll fold kind of thing. Yeah, we kind of set up the patient case study idea, patient profile kind of thing, and then follow up with a payoff on the data there. Call to action, kind of really simple roll fold idea. I think the series of this came out pretty nice. I can't remember how many we did, but in any event, nice simple little piece. All right, we'll stay on an Alcon theme here, and somebody called the Pharmaceutical Advertising Hall of Fame, because this piece might end up in there one day. I think this is for Alcon, for the drug Travatan, and I think, wow, this is 2003, so this is going way back. And we concepted this, and then I went out to San Francisco and shot this, and I forget the photographer's last name was Bob something. Really great. And we rented out a car, like racetrack, where they do a lot of commercial shoots, or not a racetrack, but like a roadway, like on a private hillside. And we just had these cyclists going all day, just shooting. So it was a lot of fun. But what I remember about this piece, and check out this chart, is, usually as a creative, you're kind of pushing back against the client about how much data to show, and it's more about it's about the story, and we want to reinforce the brand, and the client's always fighting for more data. But in this case, both sides won. We have an 11 by 17 chart here, basically on the front spread, and the whole premise around this drug was, and the whole endurance campaign was, our glaucoma drop, if you look at this one particular study in a certain light, it performed better towards the end of the day, and that's unusual in a lot of drugs, I think, or later after dosing, because a lot of drugs work well right after you take it, and then the efficacy kind of wanes as time goes on. But Travatan had a bump in efficacy as the day went on. So in any event, there you have the 11 by 17 chart. So the takeaway would probably be this: if you have the opportunity to make the client's data as part of the scene, that's usually a win. I don't know what else was in this piece. Yeah, just more data, more support points. So again, we tried to integrate the scene as best we could with the data. And there you go. That's the 2003 Travatan endurance piece. So I have another Alcon piece, but this isn't mine. This is by the legendary creative director Craig Childs. And this ciprofloxacin piece, this campaign, was really breakthrough for them, and it really established a style for the Alcon portfolio. I remember Craig had a distinct look. He used a lot of this typography and then a lot of black and white photography. And I remember for Travatan, when that launched, I'm going to do the exact opposite. He's using black and white. I'm going to go crazy with color. So I was trying to always differentiate the stuff I was working on versus his stuff, so that there was a distinct difference in look. And he was doing a lot of anti-infective things, and I was doing more on the glaucoma side. So it wasn't like these were portfolio products or anything like that. But shout out to Craig Childs. Up next, I remember working on this piece. This is from 1997. So for a brief period, I worked internally in Ameritech's graphic design department, or their internal marketing group. And this is a cover concept that I came up with. I can't say that it's my strongest work ever, but oh my goodness, it got produced. The colors are nice. Not a horrible disaster, but on the fringe. So we'll leave it at that. I see some more Alcon pieces, but before we get to that, we'll talk about this West Loop piece for a second. And on this, we did a few things for them. We were gonna do a website, but that never came through. I think they bought a bunch of veterinary equipment, and the website budget was put on hold. But we did some really cool video vignettes for them, of their customers, kind of customer testimonial kind of things, and some other video spots. And then this piece, I didn't design this piece, but I came up with the general concept and the theme, Pets Connect Us, and this look of kind of the isolated patients, or cutout patients on the clean background with their pets, and everybody's connected to the logo in the center. And every once in a while I'll walk by the clinic, it's over here in the West Loop, and they still use the Pets Connect Us, so that makes me happy. But we had an interesting arrangement with another group, and that's probably the lesson learned here is, we probably didn't do as good of a job as we could have managing that and making everybody happy. I think next time I have an arrangement like that, we'll probably do a better job. But there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and I think that ended up leading to some not so great moments. But in any event, somebody else designed this piece. It turned out nice. It's just a really simple capabilities brochure that I believe was used at the clinic as a kind of a handout kind of thing, but or a takeaway piece. So that's the Pets Connect Us West Loop Vet Clinic I want to get to these Travitan pieces, but before we do, I want to pull out this old school credit card mailing buck slip size brochure that I was a designer on. I can't remember who came up with the idea. It might have been a combination of a few people, but I just remember us like going over what to call this program, and we finally settled on Win What You Buy Sweepstakes. It was just a funny conversation, and God, this piece is so old. The takeaways, I don't know if there really is one. This is probably from the late 90s, but look at that Photoshop work there. That's some really nice vignetting and some horrifying drop shadow work there by moi. I apologize for that, so sorry about the horrible type, but yeah, did a lot of these pieces back in the day, selling credit cards to people that probably didn't need them. So anyway, there you go. That's the first card Visa Win What You Buy sweepstakes piece. Okay, we have another Alcon piece, and I think this was for Travitan. I think it's branded. Let's look. So, yep. And Travitan was the product, and Alcon was the parent company. And this is from 2001. Wow. In any event, this piece was all about positioning the competitive products as being an inefficient molecule, and Travitan was better, kind of thing. But oh man, I remember these charts. Check out that white drop shadow on that. It's pretty nice to know that this is pretty hot. But funny to look at on all these years later. And then I love this page because it looks like we just ran out of things to say. So I put an arrow down there. Oh boy. But there you go. There's the fair balance and all that good stuff. So no takeaways on this one. I do remember the creative director coming in a couple times and saying, "Can you put more arrows on here?" And I just remember being like, I'm kind of arrowed out, on this one. I don't know how many more we could have fit in here, but I did my best to make everybody happy on this particular piece. So that's the Alcon IOP target piece. So the start piece, this was another Alcon Travitan piece, and the start program, or start trial I should say, I believe was a clinical trial. It's been a long time. I don't know if this is, 2003. So a lot of details escape me from this particular piece, but I believe it was like a head-to-head study of Travitan versus other categories of glaucoma drops, I think. And I should go back. We had this nice little die cut that revealed the message here, and then we had some nice colorful tabs that differentiated the different therapies. And we just get into the story here, and I believe these photos, sorry for the glare, are stock, but then Don Levy photographed, I remember photographing these people at a studio, and then we start just getting into the data, and we pulled in people to help humanize it a little bit. I hate this stock photo of this lady. I don't know why I picked that one, or if the client picked it, who knows. I always loved this guy's shot. I think the original shots were just so much nicer than the stock shots. But in any event, all kinds of data against Travitan, or about Travitan versus these other categories of drops. And there you go. That is the Travitan start piece. I don't know if I have a takeaway on this, but brings back a lot of memories. I knew there was another one of these Alcon direct mailing patient profile case type piece. I won't go through this one, but just proof that we did another one of these. He's headed directly for the recycling bin. A nice series though. I at the time it was a nice series. But then we've got another one here. This was great. I don't know if you remember the lenticular days. We used to do so many of these little lenticulars all about, this one's about time and time rolling on. But if I remember correctly, this piece is very similar to the Travitan ad where the chart takes up the whole piece. So this was another direct mailing. Did a lot of direct mail for these guys, wow. At least the samples that I kept. So yeah, the setup, or at least the fair balance and ISI kind of stuff over to the left. Then here we go. We've got the two other panels, a one-word headline and a big chart, just like they liked it. Endurance, there you go. No takeaways from this one, but it was a lot of fun working with this, with the creative director, Jamie. He was a blast. This might be a little bit hard to tell what's under this white envelope with the opacity on it, but I'm pretty sure, oh yeah, it's yeah, definitely, it is a Privigen piece, and this might bring some flashbacks to some people who see this, but this was a monograph for a CSL bearing, and I liked it because we had this clear cover again, and then the logo's got this kind of organic shape, and then we die cut that into like right above the title. That was kind of nice. And then another thing we did here is we printed on this material too, which was kind of it's hard to see. Sorry about this. Oh, there we go. On the back, which is kind of nice. And then so yeah, we've got the printing on there, and then the die cut. And there's nothing more exciting than watching somebody go through a monograph. But I'll just see if there were some nice medical illustrations in here, and if I can find one really quickly. Yeah, that one wasn't that bad. Let's see. Oh, let me go back. That's probably started too early. There we go. So these were done by Pete Jurek. Did a really nice job in the medical illustrations. But as you can see, the rest of the, there you go. There's a couple more. You can kind of see these are, or this is a, you know, it's a monograph, so I'll move on. But the envelope that I pulled out here, yes, the real magic. I remember we created this ad idea. This is a really produced ad, like a launch ad, and I remember the claim to fame for this was it broke the book. It was like the first time the medical journal ever did something like this with a die cut ad, so that was a big deal at the time. And little Slim Jim brochure. Don't forget your CD. And I'm going to pivot here. There was something else in this envelope, and it was another Travitan piece. Let me see if I get this set up right. Yeah, this is a Travitan piece that was on a dial, and so as the piece moved, as the day moved on, kind of idea, as time moved forward, you could see the different data points and how the drug worked. So that was the idea behind this thing. And then this is so horrible. And then we've got other clinical studies on the back and charts. So anyway, this is my brainchild. I'll take credit for this one. Sorry. Anyway, that's what that's Privigen and one more Travitan piece. So I'm going to roll through these last few print samples before they hit the recycling bin. But I had a proof of this earlier, and this is the actual printed piece. But you can start to see, you know, we had this theme. God, these lights are horrible, but the gymnastics kind of theme going on for, I don't know, about a year or so. And then we transitioned to this this kind of gymnast precision strength control, but then we evolved the look or evolved the message to all about endurance. And this was another photo shoot. I went out to Southern California and photographed, tried to find the longest, straightest roads we could, and this ended up becoming the theme for the next couple of years for the campaign. And then we kind of had a parallel track in this other piece, and this was talking about the efficacy of the drug in a subset of patients in African Americans. And this piece did really well. It's probably the last existing sample of this in the world, but it won a couple of awards, which was nice. And yeah, anyway, so that's another piece. And then, oh my goodness, look out, Aurinia gel. So there's another, God, so much went into this photography. So we actually hired a Columbus-based architectural photographer, Feikenhain, I want to say his name was. Did an amazing job, but I just remember so much blood, sweat, and tears going into these pieces. I noticed a nice spiral binding, kind of a reverse tab system going on here. I think I worked on Genentech first, but then I think when I was at GSW, but then we shifted pretty quickly to this Aurinia gel. This came on pretty soon after I was there. And then how can I forget? I know this one is mine because it's got Smith written right on it. But there's another photo shoot. I forget who shot this, but we did some patient portraits for the different patient types. The only one? Yeah. And then a lot of a data story on the back. And last but not least, to be hitting the recycling bin, the annual report for the 2016 annual report for the Illinois Supreme Court Council on Professionalism. This actually turned out to be a nice piece. This is basically their logo. We had some fun with it, but we photographed all this, and we did all this in-house. I should say some of the photos were supplied, so we didn't do every shot, but lots of charts, kind of doing a timeline, making that relatively interesting. Again, this was on a photograph that we took. This was one of their events. Some more charts, some more event photography, but a nice piece. Anyway, so just wanted to get it down. At least on these, I have the PDFs and the digital files. For something like this, who knows, it's done in Quark Express or something, so it's long gone. But thanks for watching all these. This was fun to go down memory lane and look at some of these pieces one last time.